Climbers. What is up with AI Randy Travis? It kind of freaks Johnny out a little bit, but I'm going to make him talk about it today on The Climb.
No.
Yes, it's coming. Johnny, do that thing.
I'm going to do it in my AI voice. Welcome to The Climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. People leverage, that's the secret. Got to do it yourself. You don't need anybody's permission, which is great, but you got to compete and you got to be great. And that's when you're going to work with everybody that you want to work with, okay? And that's a Baxter and The Climb, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Did you catch that? That's from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, the real friggin' Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. He's got number ones in Southern Gospel. He's got top tens in Australia. Do you now have a number one in Texas or just a top 10?
Top 10. Our buddy John Stork's number one. I didn't write on that one.
Okay, got it. And what you care about is that Brent helps songwriters like you by revealing how to turn pro, teaches you how to write like a pro, how to do business like a pro, and then he gets you in touch with the pros, and you can find Brent at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. It's complicated, but he's smart. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Let's see. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D, AI or not.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I don't know what to think. Like, you sent me this. I have not looked at it because it freaks me the F out. Like,
okay. Well, I will fill you and our listeners and anyone who's not already informed. I'm happy to talk about that today. I've talked about it a bunch with buddies and songwriting friends of mine. So it's like, well, let's take it to the pod and talk about it because it's definitely a conversation that's going around.
Let's take care of some business first. And before I'm going to weigh in on my knee-jerk reaction, which is likely to be incredibly off base. Okay. But it's also simultaneously two things can be true at the same time. As incredibly off base as it may or may not be, it's likely the same conversation a lot of our listeners are having inside their head when they saw that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So first, though, let's get you to join the C.L.I.M.B community on Facebook, y'all. Just search for the C.L.I.M B community on Facebook groups, or you can go to facebook.com/groups/the C.L.I.M B community. You have to ask to be let in. We'd let everybody in unless it looks suspect. Get a lot of those too. Man, we try to protect that feed for you guys. This is a safe haven, and Brent and I will go to the ends of the earth to wipe out suspects, wipe out people who are going in there for nefarious reasons other than to shower love, light, and support on our community members, right? So stay frick out of the feed unless you got something for everybody. If you got something for everybody, put it in there. News, funny, like, vulgar displays of prowess and musicianship. I love putting that in there.
Yes.
Anything that you think we should talk about, you got a question you want to ask, man, that's for the community. Ask it in the feed. But if you want to show us your new music, we want to see it. We want to see new music on New Music Mondays as a comment. If you want to tell us about your gig coming up on the weekend, we want to hear about it. Put that in as a comment on the Gig Alert on Thursdays. And we want to celebrate your wins. And we do that in the community and on the pod when you type in a comment with your wins at New Heights post every Wednesday. What do we got?
That's right. So there are a couple things I want to point out, a couple climbers winning. So recently we did a co-write pitch event with a friend of the show, Joe Leathers. He's pro
Love
songwriter, hit
Joe.
songwriter, writes over at Curb Word Music Publishing. Good dude. He's been on the show doing a song title challenge with us, which was fun. And so we did a co-write pitch event, which is where people in the Songwriting Pro and Climb community, it's open to anyone, send in a song start. You send in a verse and a chorus, like with lyric and melody, or you just send in like a lyric, something like that. And then I curate them. I present them to our guest. In this case, it was Joe Leathers. And we hop on Zoom from anywhere that you are. And, you know, you get feedback from a pro writer. And if he really digs what you bring in, he can go, let's finish it. You want to finish this together? That you're an at-bat to get in the room with a pro. And man, we had 2 big wins come out of that.
Really?
That last one out of the 10. Yes. So we had climber Jane Sachs. She presented verse chorus. And sure enough, later she got in the room. Joe dug it. He reached out to me. He's like, yeah, I want to write on a couple of these. And so she ended up finishing up with Joe. So I'm excited to hear the. He said they hadn't quite
Wow,
locked down the work
man.
tape yet,
That
but
dude
he's
wrote
going to send it to
Hemingway's
me.
Whiskey for frickin' Kenny
Ches,
Chesney, y'all.
oh
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, he's so good.
You just got in a room with that guy.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm sure she more than held her own. Jane ain't no slouch. None of these people are slouches, and so I'm curious to hear
Yeah,
the
it
work
didn't
tape.
happen by accident, Jane, but that's a pretty cool
That's
step.
pretty.
It takes time when you can compete.
Mm-hmm,
It takes time to get into those rooms
that's right.
because you can't
So
make all those relationships that fast. You know what I mean?
that's right. So I bet that was kind of a cool moment to walk up in those doors up in Word Curve and go, I'm right with Joe Leathers today. They're like, oh, he's down in room number 7 or whatever. You know, that's kind of cool. But she wasn't the only one. We also had Elizabeth Eckert and Christine Merritt. They sent in a song start, which is, you know, both these are really cool songs, which is why Joe was interested because he didn't have time to mess around with mediocre.
That's right.
But anyway, I saw on Instagram they'd posted, you know, pick with him in the writer's room. They're like, we got to write thanks to Songwriting Pro and whatever. So they finished up their song with him. So I can't wait to hear these work tapes. It's still pretty fresh, and I can't wait to hear what they
Oh
did
yeah.
with them. And because I got to hear where it started out, and I can't wait to see what Joe brought to it. But congratulations to Jane and to Elizabeth and to Christine and to Joe. Because if he didn't feel like it was a win for him, he wouldn't have been there.
That's
So
right.
that's what we had going on with the co-write pitch event. We actually have one that's going on right now with hit songwriter Brian White, friend of the show, who wrote Watching You for Rodney Atkins. He's written stuff for Jason Aldean and Rascal Flatts and others, and also CCM stuff. And so the deadline for that is actually end of the night, Wednesday, May 15th. So the day this drops, that is tomorrow night. If you want to have a shot at writing with Brian White, come on over to songwritingpro.com and get the details.
Let me comment on this a little bit here. So number one, first of all, I think they walk in through that door at Curb to do this co-write with Joe, and it's like the beginning of Kingpin. Like the soundtrack is staying alive. Where's Joe at? Down here about. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. You know, you walk in like you own the place. That must have felt so good. That must have felt so amazing.
I mean,
And
I know I feel
two,
good every time I walk in that building to write. I feel good.
right. And number two, how freaking smart are these people? Right? Like, okay, I think I'm a competitive songwriter. I've got a competitive song start. So I'm going to get in on this thing, right? And now what happened? They got a co-write with a hit songwriter who's also a published songwriter.
Yep.
So that's going to get pitched. You know,
yeah, it's in the hopper.
If
you know,
it's
it's
in the
available.
hopper, I mean, they've never been closer to getting a pitch, right? Like on that possibly.
Well,
or at least
possibly through that. I mean, that's the thing. These people are working, right? So I'm sure this is not happening out of
they're getting
nowhere. So
pitches
I'm not going to
elsewhere.
say, yeah, because I
right.
know they get, you know, they're working it. They know what's up. But this is another at bat. This is a chance to go, and hopefully, you know, Joe was like, "Dadgum." In this case, there was all ladies. Like these ladies are killing it. Yeah, let's get back in the room. That's what we hope. But either way, it's a win, and it's an at bat, and it's a chance to, you know, make a fan out of another pro, and let's go. So I'm excited for them. Can't wait to see what happens.
I'm just glad they took the opportunity. And listen, man, if they're already working, if they're already published, they clearly haven't written with Joe before. So
right. No, they had.
Now they got an in over a Curb. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a million reasons why that it made sense to take the time and do whatever else they had to do to be a part of that.
That's right. That's right.
You know.
So I'm excited for them.
All right. So, oh God, I don't even want to talk about this. Like,
Okay, so you want to give me your hot take before you know what's up? No, you want to give me your hot
Yeah.
take just knowing that there's an AI
Well,
Randy Travis thing going around.
explain to me, and I'm sure I'm off base here, but explain to me how everybody's up in arms about AI and everybody's like, working Congress trying to fight against
Mhm.
AI to keep all this from happening. And but how's this different? Just because Randy said okay?
Okay, so I'll
Just because
just
he
give you.
he had a stroke and he's disabled? I mean, to me, it seems like it seems like like the damage will be the same no matter whether we're being forced to do it or whether we're complicit in it.
Mhm. So what damage? What do you mean by damage?
Well, if you can, you know, ultimately, I believe in my heart that there's a ways to go on this, but even like AI
Mhm.
can't feel, right?
Mhm.
It's not sentient, so it
Right.
doesn't actually have a an emotion that it's
Mhm.
trying to express musically through an
Mhm.
instrument, in this case, a voice, right? Which is
Yes.
a bunch of friggin' ones and zeros now, all right?
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like if somehow AI catches on and we move on to and we already have this, like the friggin', what do you call it? The hologram artists
Mhm.
on tour that are, ones and zeros, and then we've got
Yeah.
ones and zeros on the voices, and wow, like, whoever can create the song,
Yeah.
right, is getting paid, and the artist, all of a sudden, they've eliminated the artist from the chain who usually makes most of the money, right? Like, the
Right.
artist and maybe the label, because the labels certainly don't have to be in the chain now. But I feel like in a sea of that, let's say that becomes a fad or a
Mhm.
trend, or maybe that's where the industry heads. Then your real artist who comes out of the woodwork
Mhm.
and has something to say and a way to emote it. I feel like that's going to make them stick out like a sore thumb, right? Like
Oh
real
yeah.
human emotion will stick out and be a good thing. But we've got the problem with AI right now is just, and maybe there's no way to, maybe the only way out is through. It's just the wild west right now,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
And there's no laws, there's no regulations. I would be of the mind to be concerned about creating laws and regulations right now.
Yeah.
I follow this very closely. AI in tech, not in the
Mhm.
music industry, but in tech, on the All In podcast that I've spoken about before. And
Yeah.
they have big debates on this back and forth. And they're like, look, if we overregulate in the United States, then here's the question, right? Like, do you think Russia and China are going to put those kind of regulations in there? No, they don't
Right.
give a crap. So
Right.
now we're going to be behind, right? So it's kind of like, how can you regulate what you don't even know will happen, right? Like
Right.
you have
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
let them break the law first before you can make some new laws, or
Mm.
you have to be. So the Wild West allows for a lot of opportunity, but I I I don't like. I was very disappointed when I saw that, man. My
Yeah.
heart hurt. I'm like, I get it. Like, you know what? I don't want Randy Travis's heart to hurt. And if
Mhm.
he can figure out a way to still be relevant, God bless him. But like, this could be, it's possible. And I'm not trying to be
Mhm.
dramatic or uh, over the top here, but I mean, this could be like, I'm trying to help myself and feel good about myself, and I'm gonna I'm gonna take a baseball bat to the knees of the music industry.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of opinions about it for sure. And as far as AI and kind of what's going on with that, I know we have Bart Herbison on the books to come on the show and talk
Yeah,
about AI. So Bart is the executive director of NSAI's Nashville Songwriters Association International. They do a lot of advocacy for it's basically a trade union for songwriters, and so they go to bat for songwriters against like Spotify who's trying to screw us and helping pass laws. Tennessee recently passed the Elvis Presley Act, which is about basically you know the AI representing artist and their images and that art, that kind of stuff. So he'll be able to deep dive into that. But let's go ahead and start off talk about kind of what happened with
Yeah.
this Randy Travis AI thing. So part of what I'm pulling from is a CBS Sunday Morning, the day after the record dropped. So it dropped on at the time we record this, just like a week ago Friday. So it hadn't been out that long. I saw Randy Travis' new single out. What? And then the day they released it, they said, "Hey, this was AI assisted." I'm like, what's going on there? So of course I gave it a good
AI
listen.
assisted would seem to suggest that.
You were going to get into that, yes. So, and
I don't know.
so
I don't
I
know.
you don't know. Let me tell you what I do know. Okay, so so I gave it a spin. I'm like, dadgum, that sounds like Randy Travis. Anyway, so on CBS Sunday Morning, they talked about it, and so they interviewed. And I'll full disclosure on my part, some of the names that are going to come up are associates of mine, are friends of mine. As you mentioned on the intro, Randy Travis cut a song of mine. I have nothing but love for Randy. Even did before he cut my song, but especially after he cut my song, and I spent a day writing with him, and he was cool as all get out. So I love Randy Travis. Okay, another name that's going to pop up is Chris Lacey at Warner Brothers. I've had meetings with Chris. Nothing but good
Sure.
vibes toward Chris. Kyle Lenning, Randy's producer. I've been in over at his house a couple times. Nice guy. No bad vibes toward Kyle. James Dupre, which is another name that will come up, is a good buddy of mine. It's we've written a lot of songs together. He's cut some of my songs, so we spent a lot of time in the
Hasn't he
writers'
been on
room
the pod?
together. Maybe he's been
I feel
on The
like he
Voice.
might
He's
have.
been on. We
I
might
feel
have
like
had
he
him
was
on
on the
before, like
podcast.
way back.
Yeah.
So I need to go check. But so James is a buddy of mine. We text, we keep in touch. We've written a lot of songs together. So hey, I am biased. I have good feelings toward all of these people, right? So that being said, just full disclosure. And also allows me to name drop, but whatever. Anyway, 2 for
Not
1.
name dropping if that's what's going on, man.
No,
I mean,
okay. No, I
I
just
think
want to be
what.
upfront with that. Okay, so CBS, they went and they talked to Chris Lacey at Warner Brothers, and she's like VP at Warner Brothers. She's high up. And, so labels are having this conversation about AI. What can we do? And her statement was like, what is maybe one of the best things AI could do? Be bringing back Randy Travis's voice. So Randy Travis, about 10 or 11 years ago, had a stroke, had health complications and stuff. It basically took away his ability to sing. And he can communicate a little verbally, but man, the Randy Travis voice as we knew it, unfortunately, he can no longer produce that, which is sad for music in general, because man, what an all-time great voice. She's like, maybe can bring back Randy's voice. And so they started this process. Basically what they did was AI uses AI modeling, right? So they said they took 40 Randy Travis tracks, because he's on Warner Brothers. They stripped all the music off, fed just the raw vocal into the AI modeling thing. So this is like the premium good stuff from Warner Brothers, from the masters. Fed it into the AI thing so it can really learn Randy's voice. They got together with Randy and his producer, Kyle Lenning, longtime producer, to pick a song. They picked a song called "Where That Came From." Called "Where That Came From." It's written by John Scott Sherrill and Scotty Emmerich, so both well-established hit songwriters. Man, they've been at it for a long time. So then, what they did was they got my buddy James Dupre, and so he's tight in the Randy camp. Okay, in the Randy Travis camp. There's a tour going on right now called the More Life Tour, I think, and it's not the first time they've done this, but I mean, James was in a movie with Randy a long time ago, and like played his son or something, and then just tight with Randy and his wife. And so on this tour, it's James singing with Randy's band, Randy's hits. So, I mean, he is heavily influenced by Randy Travis, in his music. So he's tight. So you get these people that know Randy and his stuff really well. They found the song, so they needed a voice for AI to replace, basically. And so they went to the studio, and James sang the song.
Was the guide vocal.
As the guide vocal. And then they went and they worked with him, working that guide vocal. How would Randy do it? Randy's right there. Kyle's right there. They're all right there crafting this vocal. And then they go in and they put the AI and replace James. So I'm not saying anything out of school here. This was all in the CBS stuff. Okay, I know James.
Right, this is the process.
But this is what CBS they filmed James, in the studio. So this is not. I'm not talking about anything that's because
Okay,
I
can I can
value
I
my
can I
friendships.
add
But
stuff here?
yes, so that's apparently the process of them going through, and yes,
Okay, so
that's how the song got created.
take AI and just pull it out of the conversation, put it in this pile over here.
Hmm.
Okay. That process that you just described is not new. Um, the huge, I can't remember how many records it sold, but the Paula Abdul record, Forever Your Girl, is
Hmm.
one famous example of this where Paula can't sing, but she can, she was a dancer and a
Yeah.
choreographer, right? And
Hmm.
so her talent, like her first recognized talent, which is typically like your strongest talent, not always, but typically,
Yeah.
was dancing and choreography. Like half the
Hmm.
friggin' music videos you've seen on MTV were choreographed by Paul Abdul, and big movie stuff.
Hmm.
There was a dance scene in a movie. Paul choreographed it in the 80s. Um, but she can follow really well. And
Hmm.
so that whole record was put together, and Martha Wash sang the record, and Paula
Hmm.
came in and followed. And then the idea was that they supposedly eliminated all of Martha Wash's vocals, but they didn't. There's a
Hmm.
few that were in there that Martha caught onto and was like,
Hmm.
okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I got paid to come in and sing these vocals to do that, but it wasn't supposed to be released. Now you're releasing, and
Hmm.
that now I'm on the master.
Okay. Yeah. I hadn't heard about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so she sued and she won.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and she won a bunch of money, as she should, because it
Yeah.
was her likeness that was on there, and
Hmm.
somebody either didn't do a good job of it was either a mistake
Hmm.
or because I think some of it was subtle, it might have been in the stacks on the vocals, but
Yeah.
or it was they had to, right? They had to leave
Hmm.
it in because maybe Paul just couldn't get this one part. And so
Yeah.
we're going to leave that in there because it doesn't work without it and ask for forgiveness instead of permission, right? And
Yeah.
lo and behold,
They did not
they
get
had,
forgiveness.
yeah. Well, I'm sure she forgave him after she got that
Well,
check.
she got justice.
So, and
Yeah.
then, and then of course, Milli Vanilli won a Grammy, and it wasn't even their
Hmm.
friggin' vocals on
Wasn't
there. They
even their
just had a
vocals
couple
on there.
dancing chickens on the video, and
Right.
it was somebody else. So this is not new,
Yes.
but it's still,
It's a different.
I mean,
Yeah. Different.
Martha Wash, y'all. Like, if you don't know who that is, look that up. I mean, like this is a voice that is just beloved and worshipped
Hmm.
in the music industry, the powerhouse. Like, this is not just some rando. Like, she knew how to sing. She was first on that
Yeah.
speed dial. Get Martha and she can sing this
Yeah.
stuff, and we'll get Paul and follow her. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So, like, it still was a human involved. So, but I did
Yes.
want to point out, just to be fair, both sides of the
Hmm.
case here, that this has happened before.
Yes, and that's valuable, and to an extent, that happens every time there's a demo that they go, "Oh, that's cool. Do that." I mean, it's a guide. It's a that they
Well, yeah,
learn
I mean,
from.
it's a
It's
well, yeah, but
uh,
yeah, it's a melody. Okay, let me
they're probably
clarify
not
what I'm
singing. They're probably not singing along with it in their cans to help
okay,
them hit that
what I'm
thing.
saying is, okay, no, but I think the example that I used is
Hmm.
probably more correlated to
I would
what
agree.
happened with AI,
I
because
would
when you're
agree.
talking about a demo, a demo is a demonstration of
Hmm.
the lyric, the melody,
Right.
and the vibe. And so, like, how the singer, the artist is gonna, when they recut it, is gonna phrase that melody
If they're gonna
and
interpret it,
and the
yeah.
different tricks that they're gonna do, but the
Hmm.
melody is part of the blueprint. So I'm not talking about the melody with like the Paula Abdul thing. Paula Abdul followed Martha Wash's phrasing
Yeah.
because she wasn't capable of doing that, and also was too far out of pitch
Hmm.
to on her own, right?
Yeah.
But if she was singing with Martha, she sang better
Hmm.
and could sing in pitch,
So
and
you sing
then
along.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
she's singing along.
you can bet that a lot of that in order for that to work for Paula, she
Mhm.
had to, cop a lot of the phrasing
Oh,
and
I would totally be that way, like, I can sing along with stuff way better than if you just give me a karaoke track. I'm like, "Oh, no, I need that in my ear just because 'cause
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not a
and
good
so
singer,"
there's
you
that,
know?
and then
So I
for,
get
like,
that.
I'm thinking of, like, replacing drums right now in production,
Mhm.
right? So you'll have
Yeah.
a trigger, and the trigger gets hit when the drum is hit, and then it replaces with another sound that's better than the one that you got, right?
Mhm.
And, I got my thoughts about that too, move the fricking mic, man, and get a better
Yeah.
drummer, like, Lonnie Wilson comes in, never had to replace his drums.
Right,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, he's just like, he's Big Ben, man, he's the time
Mhm.
and the sound and all of it
Yes.
together, but I digress, but, the what happened here was, I'm almost positive, was that you have Dupree, who is out on the road singing the Randy Travis song. So he
Mhm.
has clearly he must vocally be kind of close to
Yeah.
tonally be close to Randy Travis. But
Yes.
more important than that, because he's been singing the Randy Travis songs, he now has a musician's intuition on Randy's phrasing, right?
Yes.
And so what they needed was somebody to sing like Randy
Mhm.
so that they could go and trigger the licks
Yes.
and the emotion, and then the AI just replaced the voice that was already
Mhm.
close with actually Randy Travis's, sonic,
AI modeled voice,
spectrum
yeah.
spectral breakdown
Mhm.
of his voice, and,
Yeah, I would imagine, and,
I
and so I haven't dove into this with James, but I would imagine, yeah, so he was influenced by Randy anyway, I just know that,
yeah,
right?
of
By
course.
knowing the dude, like,
It's
and he has a
the
g
only way
and
he
he
can get a
has
job like that to begin with because he's
yeah,
so freaking good at it.
and he's such a great singer, yeah, I mean, he has
Yeah,
stuff on streaming, you can look him up if you're just interested to hear what he was on The Voice, he's just a great singer, so go listen, especially stream his stuff because I have songs on his record, but it's James Dupre, Dupre, with a little thing over the E because he's from Louisiana. And so, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, like you said, learning that vocabulary of like, wow, I'm singing all these Randy Travis songs on this tour and I know all this stuff. And so I bet it was just kind of a like, okay, do your best, Randy Travis.
yeah, yeah.
Do your best. And you got Randy and his longtime producer sitting there to help you craft your best Randy Travis.
Mhm.
And then they're going to replace that with the AI Randy
And all they're
Travis.
doing is just
So
changing the sonics out, but the performance is there. Like,
right, they're helping. I would imagine they're
James laid
helping.
down the performance and the phrasing
Yes,
and the emotion, and now we're just gonna sonically swap out the
yes,
sound for Randy Travis's not real voice, but
but model off of his real voice,
duplicated, yeah, or modeled
duplicated.
voice.
Yeah, so that's what it looked like. It was. It was like the three of them crafting that performance because Randy can give input and stuff, and Kyle knows. So you got the three people that really know his voice
Okay, so another
working
point
that.
here
So
that
that's
comes to mind is
interesting.
just if you guys are aware of, I mean, we've been doing this with guitars for a while,
Hmm.
modeling
Hmm.
guitar sounds, right? So it's literally digital. It's like I forget the name of the freaking company now. It's German. I was just talking about this with Michael Wagner. I was out to lunch with
Hmm.
him the other day, and uh, I can't remember the dang name of it, but eh, like you can literally have like everybody's guitar tone in this
Yeah.
modeler, right? And which sounds weird. Like when I first Line 6 kind of was the first company that came out with this. When they first came out with it, I bought it and I loved
Hmm.
it and I thought it was really cool until I had to freaking mix. And it was a catastrophe because the
Oh yeah.
guitars just would not come out because it was too digital and
Mm.
there was no round and they weren't taking up any space in the mix. And
Mm.
I got, essentially and understandably and rightfully berated by Kelly, who was just like, "'Cause you got to put a mic in front of a speaker and move some air, you idiot." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh," you know what I mean? Like it was just horrible. So, but with Kemper, that's the name of the company. With the
Mhm.
Kempers, they they really done a good job. So to how good? Michael Wagner. has been using him for a while now. Like he just the
Mhm.
last thing he did just came out. He produced Mick Mars's record, and he came in and was telling Mick about the Kempers, and because when Kemper first came out, the first unit they sent, German, Michael Wagner,
Mhm.
here because he works with all the guitar greats,
Yeah.
and while Mick was bitching about Kemper, saying, "Oh, that's crap. You always got to put a mic. Nothing's gonna replace a
Yeah.
mic in front of a blah blah blah." He's on his, on his soapbox preaching while he's setting up his rig and testing and just getting his tone right and everything like that. Well, meanwhile, Michael's modeling his guitar sound with the Kemper.
Yeah.
And then Mick
Yeah.
cuts a track and he's like, "What do you think about it?" He goes, "I think it sounds amazing." He goes, I modeled it on the Kemper. And Mick's like, "You're kidding me." He's like, "No."
Yeah.
And Mick went and bought two, like the next day. But at
Yeah.
lunch, we were talking about this other girl that did like all a Daredevil artist guitar tracks. Who she can tell the difference. She can hear. He goes, "She's
Mhm.
the only one I know that can hear her ears are so good. She can hear the difference if it's
Wow.
a Kemper or not." But most people can't. So there's another
Yeah.
example where actually sonically replacing, but the performance still has to be there from the
Yeah, it
player. But sonically,
yes.
you're replacing it with some. I mean, I can get George Lynch's sound. I can get
Yeah,
Eric Clapton's sound. I can buy these
but
sounds
somebody's
and
still gotta play that guitar. Yeah,
that's right.
it was really weird, like, when I listened to that song when I listened to where that came from on Friday, the day it dropped. So I hadn't talked to James yet. I'm like, "Oh, and it's AI." And so I'm listening and knowing relationships, right? I'm listening to this song. I'm like, "Is that James in there?" Because but then it's like, am I hearing it because I'm thinking it? Like, because the song sounds also like, oh man, that sounds like a James Dupre song, as like the song, like sounds something like James would cut as much as it sounds like something Randy would cut. So part of it is going, oh wow, I'm really hearing like, oh, the influence
Yeah,
there.
the lines
But it's
blur
like,
there. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, wait, is some of that? No, it sounds like Randy. It sounds like Randy. It sounds like his vocal quality. And somewhere in there, I'm like, am I hearing James? I don't know. Is it the ghost in the machine or is it in my head? I don't know. You know, and so it's like it's kind of weird for me too, because like on one hand, it completely sounds like Randy Travis. On the other hand, I'm like, is am I hearing things I'm not really hearing, but I feel like I'm
Yeah.
hearing because I know James?
You know
It's
what?
just
With
it's
Chris, with what
odd,
Chris
but
Lacey said, now I'm thinking I got a comment about that too.
yeah.
So we went from a music business that was built on scarcity,
Hmm. Yeah.
simply because of it was cost prohibitive to
Yeah.
compete sonically,
Hmm.
right? Back in the day. To now we have a tyranny of choice. Everybody can be competitive in their living room.
Hmm.
You just got to be smarter than the average bear and put
Yeah.
out stuff. And so the idea of Chris Lacey saying, but what if it could bring back Randy Travis's voice?
Hmm.
I'm back to Jurassic Park again. You guys are so busy worrying about whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think about whether or not you should.
Yeah, and I mean, so a week ago Monday, so a couple days after this dropped, I had a coffee and two co-writes that day. So I sure enough had three conversations about this.
Yep.
you know, it was the elephant in the room, but AI in general, but also specifically the Randy Travis thing. And I heard, opinions ranging from "Dadgum, it's so good to hear his voice again" to "That's taking a spot from somebody, and I'm pissed off about it." Like that's a spot
Yeah.
that, to use a Jeff Goldblum thing, nature had selected you out.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, it sucks it happened for Randy, but what happened.
Well,
Somebody else,
you know what though? Hold on.
needs that spot. So those are some of the things that I've heard,
But
from
hold on, that
people.
okay, that lens that person is
Mhm.
looking through is strictly broadcast radio lens.
Taking a spot from somebody who should be on radio because it's a radio-centric thought.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay, and that argument doesn't exist in the new music business, okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
because 'cause they're
that
still looking
argument
at an
is
artist needs to get on Warner Brothers and release a single on Warner Brothers. Now they're having to compete against Randy Travis.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not. I mean, Well, they are because
Well, that's
the
a
Warner Brothers
paradigm.
is like everybody else is still doing frickin' radio, but,
Yeah, if you're talking about Warner
um,
Brothers and radio, that's true. But it's
yeah.
yeah, that's a great point though. Going, but in the digital world, yes, he does vie for attention, and this is a very notable thing that's gotten a
Yeah,
lot of
and
attention.
but in the point where nature selected you out, like, okay, now all of a sudden everything that Randy did before the strokes became more special, right? And is this gonna take
Right.
away from that? Like, what happened the day
Mhm.
Prince died? What happened the day, uh,
Mhm.
Tom Petty died? Like, the streams go through the roof. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, I need to
Yeah.
go back and hear this." You'll spend $1,000 if you love Adele to go see Adele when she comes through town,
Mhm.
unless she's down at the corner pub every fricking Friday singing. And then
Yeah.
you've never spent $1,000 because I'll see it.
Yeah.
I'll go
I can see
next
it
Friday.
whenever.
It's not
And
special.
that's what's spooky about it. Going, man, what are contracts going to be like? Like I've heard about what is that? It's a huge K-pop group, a boy band.
Oh,
Um,
BLT or BL,
BLT, yes, yes, exactly, BLT.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yes, and not BLM. No, it's anyway. So that group that is escaping my mind, but I've heard that like in South Korea, y'all have to do mandatory military service at a certain
Yep,
age, right?
2
And so these
years.
are all
Yep.
young guys that are going to have to go and do 2 years and whatever, um, and then for other things going, I think it's starting to be talked about. Like, okay, we get your voice and we get your image, even when you're on military duty. So you can still be making records, kind of thing. It's like, well, how is that going to change record label contracts? And does that even really matter as record labels lose leverage in the new music business? Because you may not have to sign that stuff away. The old business, and some people still think is the future. You may have to go, oh, they want
Yeah.
access to my likeness. I got to fight to keep it.
And by the way,
But
that's not new either. Like, I mean, the way that record labels used to do that, with or without the friggin' artist's permission,
mm,
if a record was owed, or with or without the artist's participation, was a
mhm.
greatest hits record.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's the way I remember, like, Aerosmith, the story with Steven Tyler was just in the not to rock bottom, but close to rock bottom on the heroin addiction in
Mhm.
late 70s, early 80s. And he was copping dope from his dealer on the street when some kid came up and handed him the greatest hits record, the first Aerosmith greatest hits
Mm.
record to sign. And he was like, he didn't even know it was out. He was like,
Yeah.
what the F?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I mean,
so
that's
there's
what
like, it's kind of same behavior, different
different kind of thing. Yeah. I mean,
tactic.
same thing happened when Tim McGraw left Curb. He's
Yeah,
putting out a new record. I think it was like on Big Machine at the time, and sure enough, same time, boom, Curb drops the greatest hits record.
yeah,
McGraw, because they had those masters and they can
yep,
do that.
yep,
According to their contract, I guess they could do that. So
yeah.
yeah, good point. That's not really anything new. I think of AI replacing actors and stuff. You had Grand Moff Tarkin in some of the Star Wars stuff, that he showed up, and that actor, Peter
Is
Cushing, I
dead.
think had been dead for years at that point, but they brought him back, or at least his face. They got an actor to do the physical performance, and they replaced the face. That's what they do with stuntmen and stuff. Speaking of stuntmen, they'll replace the stuntman's face with whoever the movie star is, right?
They will?
I think sometimes they'll replace just to make it, because sometimes the old school like stuntmen. Sometimes you go, that's not
I know, but
Patrick
they
Swayze,
shoot it
right?
right. Like, they
Wh-
shoot it from an
Well,
angle
this
where
is
you
so
can't really
it gives them.
see.
I think it gives them a little more leeway on
Oh,
shooting
wow.
it right, right?
That's
So they can do a
interesting.
little more
I didn't know
stuff
that.
because you can replace the face. It gives you a little more leeway, right?
Yeah.
So I've also heard from a
Not
guy
Tom
that's
Cruise.
like,
Tom Cruise does his own stunts, though.
I was not going to say the name. No, I don't want. Yeah, don't bring that on me. But a guy I was talking to the other day said, yeah, he's like been in the studio where a producer, like the artist, just can't quite hit the lick or the run or the roll or the whatever the performance could. So the producer go in and sing it, then AI the singer's voice over it.
Really?
Like they could, yeah. The guy told me the
Don't
other
they
day
just
he's
tune
seen
it?
that.
Don't they just tune the friggin' fire out of it?
apparently this was a different thing. So he said he's
Wow.
seen that. So I ain't
Okay.
naming no names and I wasn't there to see it myself. But I'm
So
like,
you know what?
why
Like we
wouldn't
can't get
they?
this shit driving a horse. It's already happening. We just don't know about it. Oh
Yeah.
God, this is bad. Okay, go on.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that kind of stuff, or going, hey, Elvis is back, and this is what Elvis would sound like singing new songs. That kind of stuff for sure. I'm like, oh gosh, because Elvis ain't around to approve that. To me, what gives grace is that like
Yeah.
almost like officially licensed versus bootleg. Like Randy's in the
Yeah.
room with his producer and his helping craft a performance secondhand, but it's still like at least got his blessing. And they're upfront about it. They didn't say like he had a miraculous day in the studio. They're upfront about it versus somebody that is, running 18 auto tuners on stage, to get their vocal right. So ultimately it kind of is what it is. I don't get a vote on it, but anyway, it is a thing that is going to be a real thing. But the thing is,
I
they
mean,
had to have a song. They had to have a vocal performance. We should probably do
yeah.
another episode on just like AI and songwriting, which would be interesting because I've had a lot of those conversations lately too. And there's stuff out there that is pretty freaky, but not taking my job just yet. That's what I'll say
Well,
about that.
I will say that you mentioned Elvis and uh, after he died, like all the
Hmm.
um, Ronnie McDowell did uh,
Hmm.
all the vocals on those
Yeah.
records afterwards. So all the movie soundtrack stuff, which they're gonna want the masters for, because they're
Hmm.
gonna want to license the masters from Elvis,
Yeah.
and this is a lot of these had Priscilla heavily involved in it, you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So or the even the Elvis,
Estate.
estate, yeah, 'cause I mean, sometimes it's like it's gonna show show them singing live and stuff, so it's not like they can use a soundtrack
Hmm.
master, they gotta but that would be Ronnie McDowell's voice and
Hmm.
the actor portraying Elvis, doing the
Yeah.
thing, so even there, it's kinda like it's close, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just not a computer, I guess, but
Yeah, that's the thing, it's still a person. So, yeah, as far as my opinion on it, it's spooky and, like, as far as Randy's particular situation, if he's okay with it, I ain't gonna tell him he's wrong because it's him making decisions, for himself. So I'm like, "You do you, cool,"
yeah.
As far as labels and stuff, man, I sure hope they don't get into just, using people's stuff without their permission. Artists put out a new record. Really, I've never even heard these songs, and yet there's my AI singing on them because I had a song left in my contract. But at the same time, you're like, we had a song left in your contract.
I'll bet
Bottom
they do it
line,
though. You know what? I'll bet they
go.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. Why wouldn't you? So, bottom line, go build your audience. You have your own leverage, and then hopefully, people. And we're going to talk to Bart about this coming up on the pod about legislation stuff to hopefully protect people from using your name, image, likeness, to borrow a college term, without your permission. That's that's even more what I'm worried about is like, okay, people faking stuff. People have been faking stuff ever since people put on wig and makeup,
Yeah,
to do a show, right? So
that's
let's
right.
but we want to protect people using our stuff without our permission and that kind of stuff. So I'm in a way more interested in that going forward. So at least stuff's above board. But anyway, that's what I had. I just wanted to shine some light on that if y'all hadn't caught up with that. But we'd love to hear your comments on it when we post this in the climate community or wherever you see this on social media. Let us know your thoughts because I'm sure you have some.
There you go. Well, that takes us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. I feel like I just went through therapy because I felt like I might get raped, and then I found out I've been getting raped all along,
Oh gosh.
that I didn't know, like artistically raped.
Uh, uh,
Like, no, no. I mean, okay. Another example that's like super secret, just on the
no,
side, is that
we're still
Sound
recording,
Science
but
didn't
okay.
play all the guitar leads on the big White Snake record because they got in a fight and split up before that record was being done. But whoever did play the guitar leads, and I know who it was, just sounded like purposefully and just in
Yeah.
a vulgar display of prowess sounded like John Sykes.
Yeah.
Like how he would play it, you know what I
And
mean?
just
So
in an
there again, kind
uncredited
of with
role. Yeah.
deception, like not real. So I guess, yeah, good Lord.
Stuff's been going on.
But all right,
But
well, we'll keep you up to date on this as it unfolds here on the climb. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
and we'll see you at the top.